Hello, horror family. Hope you enjoy the first Binge series. Part 2 and 3 will be out over next few days. Enjoy.
Once upon a time, in a small town nestled amidst dense woods, there was an eerie and abandoned circus. Its faded sign, creaking carousel, and dilapidated tents bore the remnants of a bygone era. The residents whispered of strange occurrences and unsettling tales surrounding this forsaken place. And at the heart of these chilling legends stood the terrifying and haunting figure of a clown. This clown, known as Jester, possessed a sinister presence that pervaded the entire circus grounds. Its grotesque face, painted with white and red, bore an eternally wide grin that seemed frozen in macabre delight. Its eyes, cold and soulless, gleamed with a malevolence that sent shivers down the spines of even the bravest souls. Jester, with a demented glee, found pleasure in preying on children. Underneath the seemingly innocent candy-filled exterior, he reveled in the terror he could instill in those who stumbled upon his path. The townsfolk feared his unpredictable and sadistic nature, for he struck fear into the hearts of anyone who dared come near. The first victim of Jester's malevolence was young Timothy, a curious and adventurous little boy. Timothy wandered into the abandoned circus, drawn by the whispered tales that filled his imagination. As he explored the rusted rides and forgotten tents, Jester watched from the shadows, his eyes gleaming with perverse delight. When Timothy stumbled upon a tent decorated with vibrant balloons, he couldn't resist the temptation to enter. The moment he stepped inside, he was engulfed in an otherworldly darkness that seemed to consume the very air. Jester's melodic laughter echoed through the tent as Timothy's pleas for help went unanswered, lost in the void. Days turned into weeks, and the once vibrant town became consumed by an overwhelming sense of dread. Children vanished without a trace, and whispers of their encounters with Jester spread like wildfire. The townspeople, overcome with fear and desperation, devised a plan to confront this evil once and for all. Led by a fearless and determined woman named Emily, a group of sturdy individuals armed themselves with weapons and bravery. They ventured deep into the woods, guided by the faint sound of children's laughter emanating from the heart of the forsaken circus. As they approached the decrepit circus grounds, a foreboding chill sent shivers down their spines. The atmosphere grew thick with an oppressive darkness, but their determination pushed them forward, refusing to succumb to the terror that lay before them. Upon entering the main tent, they were greeted by a ghastly sight. Jester, his grin stretched impossibly wide, towered over a group of terrified children. His piercing laughter surrounded them, drowning out the screams of the innocent. Emily, fueled by an indomitable spirit, charged towards the malevolent clown, rallying the others to join her. The battle that ensued was a chaotic frenzy of steel and blood. As blades clashed and guns fired, Jester fought with a fiendish agility, dodging and weaving against their relentless assault. Their determination was unyielding, and inch by inch, they pushed Jester towards defeat. The clown's gleeful expression finally morphed into one of desperation and rage. With a final agonizing scream, Jester dissolved into nothingness, vanishing in a puff of smoke and leaving behind only a haunting legacy. The town rejoiced, grateful for their newfound freedom from the reign of terror that once plagued them. Yet the memory of Jester and the nightmare he inflicted upon them would forever linger as a reminder of the darkness lurking within the shadows. And so the abandoned circus grounds were sealed, never to be disturbed again. The eerie tales of Jester, the malevolent clown who preyed upon children and anyone in the way, became mere whispers on the wind, a reminder of the fragility of innocence and the resilient spirit of those who dare to confront the darkest of nightmares.
In the heart of an ancient forest, shrouded in mist and mystery, lay untold horrors that few dared to venture into. It was within this foreboding realm that Emily, a young brunette woman with an insatiable thirst for adventure, found herself drawn one fateful evening. Eager to escape the monotony of her mundane existence, Emily embarked on a journey to explore the depths of the forest. As she entered, The dense canopy above cast eerie shadows upon her path, the silence broken only by the distant scuttling of unseen creatures. With each step, the air grew heavy with an otherworldly chill, causing Emily's breath to catch in her throat. And as she continued deeper into the ethereal gloom, an unsettling presence enveloped her, a feeling that she was being watched by unseen eyes. Unease transformed into primal fear when ominous whispers reached her ears, carried by the rustling wind. The forest seemed alive, filled with an unseen malevolence that lingered just beyond the veil of visibility. Emily's heart pounded against her chest as a foreboding sense of entrapment settled upon her shoulders. Suddenly, the whispers ceased, replaced by a bone-chilling silence that sent shivers down her spine. As if on cue, the oppressive quiet was shattered by a blood-curdling screech. Emily turned to escape, but her path had transformed into an impenetrable tangle of branches and brambles, trapping her within a nightmare. A piercing cry echoed through the forest, causing Emily's muscles to tense with terror. She spun around to face the source of the chilling sound, only to be confronted by a grotesque and towering figure. Its form was a twisted amalgamation of limbs and sinew, adorned with sharp claws and elongated bony fingers. This horrifying creature, known as the Cryptic Reaper, emerged from the shadows, its skeletal visage illuminated by malevolent eyes that glowed a sickly shade of green. Its hungry gaze fixated upon Emily, its grotesque maw opening wide to reveal rows of razor-sharp teeth. The Cryptic Reaper let out another nightmarish wail, and with startling speed, began its relentless pursuit. Emily's heart raced as she sprinted through the unforgiving forest, crashing against gnarled trees and tripping over unseen roots. Her desperate cries for help dissipated, drowned in the predator's cruel laughter. The Cryptic Reaper's presence filled the air, its noxious breath searing Emily's lungs as she fought to escape its wrath. With each step, it grew closer, its manic cries echoing through the twisted landscape. Panic seized her, but Emily refused to submit to this abomination of nature. Summoning every ounce of courage, she veered off the beaten path, darting through the undergrowth with a newfound determination. The constant sound of cracking branches and ferocious growls urged her forward, reminding her that her only hope lay in outrunning her pursuer. Time seemed to stretch infinitely as Emily pushed herself beyond her limits, each nerve-wracking breath fueling her resolve to survive. Sweat drenched her brow and burned her eyes, but she dared not slow her frantic pace. The Cryptic Reaper was relentless, its monstrous form closing in with each passing second. The forest seemed never-ending, an inescapable labyrinth that conspired against her. Just when despair threatened to consume her, an unexpected glimmer of moonlight pierced through a clearing up ahead. Emily's heart soared. She had stumbled upon salvation. Summoning her last reserves of strength, she lunged toward the light, bursting through the tree line into an open meadow. The Cryptic Reaper's frenzied cries faded in the distance as Emily collapsed onto the dew-kissed grass, her body trembling with exhaustion. As dawn broke, casting gentle hues of warmth upon the landscape, Emily stumbled upon a forgotten trail, leading her back to civilization. The nightmares of the forest began to fade, leaving only scars etched into her memory. Though she survived the harrowing encounter, the brunette woman would forever bear witness to the tormenting presence of the Cryptic Reaper in her dreams, a constant reminder of the horrors that lurk within the darkest corners of existence. The forest would remain a haunted realm of the grotesque and the unseen, its secrets whispered only within the nightmares of the intrepid souls who dare tread its forbidden paths.
Dave, an experienced hunter with a deep love for the wilderness, embarked on his solitary expedition deep within the heart of the dense forest. Armed with his trusty rifle and an unyielding spirit, he sought to conquer new terrain and capture nature's secrets through the lens of his camera. Little did he know, his encounter with a legend would turn his journey into a terrifying battle for survival. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting eerie shadows across the forest floor, an unsettling silence engulfed the area. The faint rustling of leaves and creaking of branches provided the only ambiance, signaling that Dave was encroaching on territory never traversed by humans before. As the moon's silvery glow bathed the forest in an ethereal light, Dave's heart pounded with anticipation. Suddenly, a distant growl echoed through the trees, making him freeze in his tracks. His senses heightened. He realized he was not alone. Something unimaginable lurked in the darkness, observing his every move. With caution, Dave navigated deeper into the vast expanse of twisted foliage, his camera at the ready. The pungent scent of nature filled his nostrils, mingling with an undeniable sense of unease. The forest floor was littered with broken branches, as though an incredible force had recently passed through. Paranoia gripped him as shadows danced in the undergrowth, making his nerves fray at the edges. A shiver ran down his spine as he heard a low, ominous thud resonate from the distance. It was getting closer. Dave's heartbeat quickened, and he fervently hoped he was merely imagining things. Suddenly, the woods erupted in a cacophony of snaps and rumbles. Fear surged through Dave's veins, eroding his hunter's instincts. In that moment, his flashlight flickered, casting eerie shadows that seemed to move with a life of their own. Panic set in as he realized he was being stalked. A deafening roar reverberated through the forest, chilling Dave to the core. It was a sound that seemed to come from the very depths of hell, a guttural cry announcing the arrival of the legendary creature known as Bigfoot. Dave's mind raced, desperately seeking a means of escape. Swallowing his fear, Dave tried to retrace his steps, to find a path back to safety. But Bigfoot, with its hulking silhouette and massive feet, blocked any chance of retreat. Its red, glowing eyes pierced Dave's soul, freezing him in terror. The creature moved with a grace that belied its enormous size, taunting Dave with every step. Desperation fueled his strength, and Dave sprinted through the underbrush, dodging thorny tendrils and fallen debris. He could hear Bigfoot's thunderous footsteps closing in, the earth trembling under its weight. Panic threatened to overwhelm him, but he refused to succumb. Branches whipped against his face, drawing blood and blurring his vision. He stumbled on rocks and gnarled roots, but adrenaline pushed him forward. Dave's body screamed in protest. His stamina waned, yet his will to survive grew stronger with each gasping breath. The hunted hunter's world narrowed to an intense tunnel of fear and determination. He dared not look back, knowing that even a fleeting glance could seal his doom. Guided only by his primal instincts, Dave fought through the forest chaos, with Bigfoot's ominous presence on his heels. Hours turned into an eternity as Dave desperately searched for sanctuary. His lungs burned, his muscles screamed, but he kept pushing, desperate for the slimmest chance at survival. Finally, he stumbled upon a small cavern hidden within a cluster of rocks, its entrance mysterious and foreboding. Dave's body collapsed as he sought refuge within the cold, damp depths of the cave. He listened intently for any signs of pursuit, but heard only his own labored breathing. In the depths of that dark abyss, he allowed exhaustion to overtake him. As daylight filtered through the cave's opening, Dave's eyes slowly fluttered open. The horrors of the previous night seemed distant, yet real. He was alone, save for the scratches and bruises that adorned his body as a reminder of his harrowing escape from Bigfoot's wrath. With trembling hands, he retrieved his camera, scrolling through the photos he had taken before the encounter. Among them, an image emerged, a blurry silhouette, a true testament to the face-to-face encounter that haunts his dreams to this day. Forever changed, Dave emerged from the depths of the forest, carrying the story of his survival. Whether it was a stroke of luck, sheer determination, or a brush with the supernatural, no one could ever truly comprehend the terrors he had faced. And as long as Bigfoot roamed those woods, his chilling encounter would serve as a warning to all who dared to venture too far off the beaten path.
Once upon a time in the quiet town of Ravenswood, there was a young and dedicated blonde nurse named Emma. Emma had recently started working at the old Victorian hospital located at the outskirts of town. Her job was demanding, but she had always found solace in taking care of others during their most vulnerable times. However, Emma soon realized that her new workplace carried an eerie atmosphere. The hallways were dimly lit, and the walls were adorned with unsettling paintings from years gone by. But what unnerved her the most was the ever-present sense of being watched. She often caught glimpses of something moving out of the corner of her eye, but whenever she turned to face it, the figure vanished. One fateful night, Emma was assigned to the graveyard shift. As the moon rose high in the sky, casting a ghostly glow through the hospital windows, she prepared herself for a long and haunting night ahead. The silent halls seemed to come alive with whispers as she went about her duties. Every creak and sigh echoed ominously, making the hairs on the back of Emma's neck stand on end. She couldn't shake the feeling that someone or something was observing her every move. As the night wore on, Emma noticed a tall, dark figure lurking in the shadows. It appeared to be a silhouette of a man, but its features were obscured, making it impossible to recognize. Fear began to course through her veins, but she tried to convince herself that it was just a trick of her tired mind. Nevertheless, the figure persisted. It followed her from room to room, lurking just beyond her peripheral vision. Emma's heart pounded in her chest, and her hands trembled with unease. She knew she needed to stay focused on her patients, but it became increasingly difficult with the ominous presence looming over her shoulder. Time seemed to stretch on indefinitely, and the night became a blur of unease and constant vigilance. Emma's nerves were frayed, and fatigue began to take its toll. The shadowy figure seemed to grow in strength, its presence becoming an oppressive weight on her shoulders. As dawn approached, Emma's shift finally came to an end. Exhausted, she gathered her things and headed for the exit. But to her horror, she discovered that the figure had followed her out of the hospital. It now stood at the edge of the parking lot, still shrouded in darkness. Heart-pounding, Emma quickened her pace, hoping to outrun whatever was haunting her. But no matter how fast she went, the figure seemed to effortlessly keep up. Its mere presence filled her with dread, knowing that it had followed her beyond the walls of the hospital. Tears streamed down Emma's face as she reached her home. She rushed inside, desperate to find safety from the relentless shadow. But as she locked the door behind her, she realized with horror that the figure was now standing on the other side of the window, its gaze fixed upon her. Terrified, Emma barricaded herself in her bedroom, convinced that she was trapped in a never-ending nightmare. The figure continued to haunt her, lurking just outside her window each night, watching her every move. Sleep became a distant memory as Emma's sanity began to unravel. Days turned into weeks, and Emma's life became a living hell. She could no longer distinguish between reality and the horrifying presence that stalked her. Her once blonde hair turned dull and lifeless, mirroring the despair that had seeped into her very soul. One evening, Emma had reached her breaking point. As she sat huddled in a corner of her room, the shadowy figure pressed its face against the window, causing the glass to frost over with an icy chill. Emma mustered up the last bit of strength and confronted the figure, screaming in defiance. To her shock, the figure recoiled, fading away into the darkness from which it came. Its presence vanished, leaving Emma trembling and alone. Relief washed over her, but she knew she would forever carry the scars of that haunting experience. Emma eventually left Ravenswood, seeking solace in a new town far away from the tormented memories. However, she knew that the shadow figure would always be a part of her, a reminder of the horrors she had endured. To this day, residents of Ravenswood speak in hushed whispers about the blonde nurse who was haunted by a shadow figure. Some believe it was the ghost of a past patient, while others believe it was a malevolent entity drawn to the hospital's dark history. But one thing remains certain. The tales of Emma's ordeal serve as a chilling warning, reminding us that some shadows are impossible to escape.
In the depths of a dense ancient forest shrouded in mystique and whispered tales of horror, lies a cabin. This cabin is no ordinary dwelling. It is the residence of a horrifying witch known only as Elira. Her archetype is the epitome of darkness, striking fear in the hearts of those who dare speak her name. Rumors circulate like restless spirits through nearby villages, painting a chilling picture of Elira's abode. It is said that the cabin possesses a power that beckons unsuspecting souls, pulling them inexorably into its clutches and to their doom. The forest trees whisper of the countless souls who have ventured near only to vanish without a trace. One stormy night, a young couple, Max and Emily, ventures into the realm of the unknown, driven by curiosity and an insatiable thirst for an authentic supernatural experience. Armed with a camera and oblivious to the dangers that lay ahead, they venture deep into the heart of the forest. The cacophony of squawking birds and rustling leaves surround them, heightening the sense of unease. As they navigate further into the labyrinthine woods, a thick fog descends, obscuring their vision and disorienting their senses. A foreboding silence settles upon them, unbroken save for the sound of their own pounding hearts. The once vibrant forest seems frozen, as if nature itself holds its breath. Suddenly, through the mist, the dilapidated cabin emerges like a ghastly specter. Its crumbling walls and rotting timbers exude malevolence, and an ominous aura radiates from its decrepit windows. Fear tugs at Max and Emily's core, but their desire to document something truly haunting compels them forward despite their instincts screaming in dissent. Cautiously stepping across the creaking porch, they push open the door, unleashing a stench of decay and despair that assaults their senses. Inside, the cabin appears frozen in time, with dust-covered artifacts and moth-eaten curtains suspended in eerie stillness. The air is thick with a malevolent presence, and a foreboding feeling washes over the couple. Max, driven by a sense of morbid curiosity, initiates the quest to document their encounter with Elira. Armed with a camera, he explores each darkened room, capturing every unsettling detail. Emily's apprehension intensifies, her mind plagued with thoughts of the unknown horrors that might awaken in the presence of this wicked witch. As they delve deeper into the bowels of the cabin, an unnatural chill embraces them, seeping through their skin and burrowing deep into their souls. Whispers, barely audible, echo through the moldy halls, but the source remains elusive. Shadows dance across the walls, taunting the couple as they navigate the labyrinthine corridors. Unbeknownst to Max and Emily, Elira has sensed their presence, her senses heightened to the intrusion. A formidable sorceress, she waits in the depths of her lair, watching, calculating, and preparing to unleash her wickedness upon the intruders, foolish enough to disturb her sanctuary. With each step, Max and Emily unknowingly draw closer to their demise. Shadows morph into clawed hands that grasp at their ankles, while ethereal voices whisper sinister incantations that warp their minds. Their once sturdy resolve falters in the face of the witch's malevolence, but escape seems impossible, as the cabin manipulates time and space at Elira's whims. As the night wears on, every room becomes a twisted maze of nightmares. Emily's sanity teeters on the edge of oblivion, and Max's confidence wanes with each passing moment. Desperation takes hold, but every door they unlock only leads them deeper into the witch's dark designs. As they approach the culmination of their nightmarish journey, they reach a blood-stained chamber at the heart of the cabin. The air itself seems to choke them, and the walls bleed with ancient symbols etched in suffering. It's here that they face Elira, her eyes burning with ancient malice. With a flick of her bony fingers, Elira unleashes her deadly powers, bringing forth tendrils of darkness that ensnare Max and Emily, their screams reverberating through the cabin's haunted halls. Their final moments flicker between pain and terror as Elira feeds off their fear, her wicked laughter echoing in their final breaths before twisting into silence. And so, the legend of Elira, the horrifying witch of the deep forest cabin, endures. The souls of Max and Emily join the countless others trapped within the eternal nightmare, forever prisoners to her insidious powers. The cabin retreats back into the enigmatic forest, to be discovered by the unwary and doomed, a testament to the price of curiosity and the horrors that dwell within the world beyond our own.
The moon hung ominously in the ink-black sky as Sarah and Mark made their way through the rusty iron gates of Hollow Hill Cemetery. It was a late autumn night, filled with a biting chill that seemed to seep into their very bones. The couple, young and curious, gazed upon the tombstones and darkened mausoleums, their path illuminated only by the feeble glow of a flashlight. The air around them seemed to thicken, and a heavy silence settled over the cemetery like a shroud. A gust of wind whistled through the ancient trees, causing the couple to shudder involuntarily. "Are you sure we should be here, Mark?" Sarah's voice trembled, her eyes darting nervously across the eerie landscape. Mark, attempting to conceal his own unease, put on a brave face. "It's just a graveyard, Sarah. Nothing to be afraid of. Besides, it's Halloween. Everyone explores the spookier side of things." As they wandered deeper into the graveyard, a strange sensation washed over them. The ground felt spongy beneath their feet, as if it were alive itself. Unbeknownst to the couple, a malevolent force was stirring beneath the soil, lured to life by their presence. Just as Sarah began to relax, an eerie moan echoed through the night air. Her heart raced as she looked around, trying to identify the source of the chilling sound. Panic swept over her when she saw a figure emerging from the ground nearby. "Mark, look!" she screamed, a mixture of terror and disbelief in her voice. Mark's eyes widened in horror as he turned his gaze to the ghastly sight before him. Corpses, their pale limbs coated in dirt, clawed their way out of the ground, their empty eyes reflecting an otherworldly hunger. The dead, once peacefully resting, had been disturbed by the couple's presence and now sought to reclaim their territory. Fear coursed through Sarah's veins as she and Mark sprinted towards the cemetery gates, desperately hoping for escape. But the undead seemed to have no boundaries, their relentless pursuit slowly closing in on the terrified couple. As they dodged crumbling headstones and ragged tombstones, Sarah glanced back only to see the horde growing in numbers. The dead were now joined by figures in tattered funeral clothes, their features twisted with unholy rage. With every step, Sarah and Mark felt the air grow colder, their breath mingling with the haunting whispers of the deceased. They could almost smell the decay and hear the bones cracking beneath the hungry feet behind them. Just as they reached the gate, Mark stumbled on an upturned cobblestone, falling to the ground. Sarah turned back to help him, crying out in terror as a decomposing hand reached out from the ground, gripping Mark's ankle tightly. Driven by adrenaline and pure survival instinct, Sarah fought desperately to free Mark from the undead's ghastly grasp. Time seemed to stretch as her mind raced, searching for a way out. In her desperate struggle, Sarah's trembling hand brushed against a fallen branch, the only weapon within reach. Summoning all her strength, she swung it with all her might, shattering the decaying limb and freeing Mark. Seizing the opportunity, they ran towards the gate, their lungs searing with each breath. As they burst through the iron entrance, they collided with another couple, exploring the graveyard's outskirts. "Run!" Sarah gasped, her voice barely a whisper. Without hesitation, the other couple joined them in a frenzied escape, their footsteps echoing through the night. They sprinted towards the safety of civilization, the sound of the dead fading behind them. Finally reaching the safety of their car, the couple looked back at Hollow Hill Cemetery, their faces pale and filled with disbelief. They had experienced a terror beyond their worst nightmares, a haunting they would carry with them forever. As the engine roared to life, they glanced at each other, relief mingling with the shreds of horror still etched on their faces. They knew they had escaped, but the memory of the dead rising from their graves would forever haunt their dreams. Little did they know, the restless spirits of Hollow Hill Cemetery had only hungered for a taste of the living, and now they craved more of the world that lay beyond the cold earth.
John, a thrill-seeker in his late 20s, embarked on an adventurous journey to explore the mysteries hidden within the ancient pyramids of Egypt. Little did he know that his search for excitement would plunge him into a nightmare he could never have imagined. As he descended into the depths of the pyramid, the air grew heavy and suffocating. The torchlight flickered ominously, casting eerie shadows on the ancient walls adorned with hieroglyphics. A sense of foreboding washed over John, but his curiosity pushed him forward. Deeper into the labyrinthine tunnels, he uncovered a hidden chamber untouched by time. Golden artifacts and priceless relics adorned the altar, but one object seized his attention, an ancient ceremonial amulet gleaming with an otherworldly brilliance. Unaware of the ancient curse shrouding it, John reached out and took hold of the cursed artifact. A tangible wave of darkness swept over the chamber. Whispers echoed through the air, filled with the agony of souls long gone. Moments later, the sarcophagus at the center of the chamber erupted, revealing the awakening horrors within. Mummified figures wrapped in decaying bandages rose slowly, their empty eye sockets glowing with an unholy fire. Terror surged through John's veins, his every instinct screaming for flight. But it was too late. The curse had been unleashed, and the restless pharaohs sought vengeance upon any who dared disturb their eternal slumber. The mummies, their desiccated bodies twisted and grotesque, advanced towards John with supernatural speed. With ethereal moans of anguish, they attacked, their bony fingers extended toward him in a macabre dance of doom. John fought desperately, swinging at the decaying figures, but they pressed on relentlessly. Their bandages unraveled, revealing ancient flesh clinging to brittle bones. The stench of decay and the clamor of rattling wrappings enveloped him, threatening to engulf his very soul. In a desperate attempt to escape, John raced through the maze-like corridors, pursued by the relentless mummies. The walls seemed to close in, trapping him in an inescapable nightmare. Air thick with dust choked his lungs, and panic surged, threatening to consume his sanity. Navigating through the treacherous maze, John stumbled upon a hidden chamber. Though it seemed like a sanctuary, he soon discovered that it held an even deeper horror. A shrine filled with preserved organs of the ancient pharaohs, pulsating with a sinister energy. Cornered and with no other option, John grasped a golden dagger from the shrine and turned to face his relentless pursuers. With each swing, he severed their decaying limbs, but they regrouped, their determination unyielding. Time seemed distorted, stretched unnaturally in the cyclical battle against the relentless horde. Just as despair began to consume him, John noticed a shimmering light emanating from the amulet he had taken. Reflecting the ancient incantations etched upon its surface, it held the key to breaking the curse. Summoning the last vestiges of his courage, John recited the incantation, the words flowing from his lips like a desperate prayer. The amulet ignited in a blinding flash of light, casting a protective barrier around him. The curse-bound mummies recoiled, momentarily halted by the power of the ancient charm. Using the opportunity, John fled through the twisting corridors, the amulet shielding him from the clutches of the vengeful pharaohs. Emerging from the depths of the pyramid, John collapsed onto the sandy dunes outside, gasping for breath. His heart pounded in his chest, his mind filled with trauma from the unimaginable horrors he had witnessed. He realized then the true weight of his actions. The curse had been broken, but the memory of the mummy's wrath would forever haunt his dreams. The ancient pharaohs would not rest, their legacy now a harbinger of doom for all who dared trespass. From that day forward, John carried the scars of that wretched ordeal, never again venturing into the depths of the world's ancient secrets. For within the heart of the pyramid, the curse whispered, reminding him of the horrors that awaited those who disrupted the eternal slumber of the pharaohs. Urban exploration had always been a thrilling adventure for Jake. Delving into forgotten and decaying structures gave him an adrenaline rush like no other. He had explored numerous places over the years, each with their own sinister histories. But none of his experiences could prepare him for what awaited him at the abandoned slaughterhouse on the outskirts of town. Rumored to be haunted, the slaughterhouse had been abandoned for decades. The once bustling place now stood as a chilling reminder of the horrors that occurred within its walls. Jake had always been drawn to such places, fascinated by the darkness that clung to them. And so he found himself standing before the dilapidated entrance, his heart pounding with anticipation and a touch of fear. With each step he took, the air grew heavier, thick with an eerie silence. The building loomed over him, casting long shadowy fingers in the dim moonlight. As he explored the empty hallways, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. The abandoned remains of machinery and blood-stained walls created an atmosphere of lingering despair. As he descended into the basement, the temperature dropped, sending shivers down his spine. The flickering of his flashlight cast grotesque shadows on the walls, making it appear as if the very building were alive. The silence was shattered by a sudden creaking sound, causing Jake's heartbeat to quicken. He continued down a narrow corridor, drawn towards a dim light emanating from a room at the very end. With each step, his unease grew, as if an invisible force was urging him to turn back. But his curiosity prevailed. Pushing open the creaking door, he was hit by the stench of decay, and the sight that met his eyes froze him in terror. A gruesome figure resembling a demon from a nightmare stood in the center of the room. Its sunken, bloodshot eyes glowed red with a malevolent fire, while its rotting flesh hung loosely from its skeletal frame. Its mouth was deformed, revealing jagged yellowed teeth, and an eerie growl escaped its throat. This was no ordinary demon. It was a terrifying zombie-like creature. Time seemed to stand still as the demonic figure locked eyes with Jake. The putrid smell intensified, overwhelming his senses. Panic surged through him, but he managed to summon his survival instincts and fled the demon's monstrous growl echoing behind him. Heart pounding, Jake raced back through the maze-like corridors of the Slaughterhouse. Each corner seemed to be a dead end, forcing him to backtrack and search for a different escape route. The sound of the demon's heavy footfalls echoed through the hallways, growing louder and closer with each passing second. In his frantic search for an exit, Jake stumbled upon a rusted metal door. Without wasting a moment, he pushed it open, hoping to find sanctuary on the other side. To his dismay, he found himself in a disheveled processing room filled with hooks and chains that dangled ominously from the ceiling. As he tried to steady his breath, he noticed a broken window at the far end of the room. Desperation drove him forward, but before he could reach it, a hand cold and claw-like closed around his ankle, yanking him back. He hit the ground with a thud, his vision blurring from both fear and pain. With the demon looming over him, its unearthly shrieks reverberated through the room, shattering glass and threatening to shatter Jake's resolve. But as a last-ditch effort, he reached out, grabbing a nearby hook and swung it desperately at the abomination. Impact. The hook collided with the creature's face. It screeched, releasing its grip and stumbling backward, giving Jake enough time to scramble to his feet. Adrenaline surged through his veins as he made a mad dash towards the broken window, cutting his hands on the shattered glass as he leaped through it. Landing in a thicket of overgrown bushes outside the slaughterhouse, Jake's entire body throbbed with pain. He glanced back to see the demonic creature emerge from the building, its grotesque features twisted into a wicked, bloodthirsty grin. Terrified but determined to survive, Jake forced himself to his feet and sprinted away, his heart racing, leaving behind the nightmare-filled slaughterhouse and the demon that lurked within its decaying walls. As he put distance between himself and the haunted building, Jake couldn't help but reflect on his chosen hobby. Urban exploration had always been an adventure, a way to seek out forgotten places and uncover their dark secrets. But this encounter had shown him that some secrets are better left buried in the depths of darkness, lest they awaken something far more sinister than the stories whispered in the shadows.
Deep in the heartland, nestled amidst expansive fields and swaying crops, stood an abandoned farm. The stories whispered by locals were filled with chilling tales of unexplained disappearances and dark deeds. But curiosity was an insidious force, and it beckoned to young couples searching for adventure. Such was the case for Lily and Mark, a couple in their early 20s, who embarked on a fateful journey to explore the dilapidated ruins of this farm. As they approached the rusty gates, an eerie silence enveloped the air. Weeds entwined the creaking fence, giving the impression that nature had claimed this forsaken place. The farm itself appeared frozen in time. Crumbling walls and shattered windows bore witness to the passage of years. Undeterred by the ominous aura, Lily and Mark pushed open the decaying front door, their eyes adjusting to the gloom within. A musty smell clung to the air, as if the very essence of abandonment permeated the space. The couple shivered slightly, their anticipation tinged with apprehension. Their footsteps echoed through the empty farmhouse, each creaking floorboard adding to the cacophony of unease. They explored the dimly lit rooms, the flickering beams of their flashlights painting shadows that seemed to dance along the peeling wallpaper. A pervading sense of being watched began to suffocate their curiosity. In the darkest corner of an antiquated bedroom, Mark's flashlight beam caught something horrifying, a photograph. Frozen in time, it depicted a man with a twisted, deformed visage, his deranged eyes seeming to follow their every move. The couple exchanged anxious glances, their initial excitement turning into a gnawing fear. Before they could retreat, a blood-curdling scream sliced through the air. Their hearts palpitated as they hurriedly fled the room, instinct screaming at them to escape the clutches of peril. But the old floorboards betrayed their presence, creaking beneath their weight like a foreboding alarm. Down narrow hallways they raced, their breaths ragged and their minds racing. Behind them, blades of grass grew wild through the cracks in the wooden floor, a bizarre testament to the farm's silent wrath. With each step, the presence of the deformed man lurched closer, his heavy footsteps and raspy breath hot on their heels. Hyperventilating, they crashed into an overgrown backyard, their bodies colliding with an iron fence that encircled the property. Desperation spread through their veins as they frantically searched for an exit. The stark realization washed over them. It was a trap, a ruse set up by the deranged farmer who once ruled this forsaken land. And then they saw him, the twisted figure of a man, his deformed features contorted into a smile that defied reason. In his hands, a chainsaw gleamed ominously, the metal teeth whispering their intent for gruesome destruction. The glint of madness danced in his eyes, as if he derived perverse pleasure from the hunt. Adrenaline surged through their veins as they sprinted toward the neighboring fields, their lungs burning with each desperate breath. The towering cornfield swayed around them, creating a labyrinth of uncertainty. But the relentless revving of the chainsaw pushed them onward, their minds teetering on the edge of sanity. The chase continued relentlessly, the deranged farmer displaying uncanny endurance in his pursuit. His distorted laughter echoed through the night, a chilling soundtrack that fueled their terror. With every fleeting glance over their shoulders, they caught glimpses of his nightmare-inducing figure, his mangled form almost bestial in nature. Through the moonlit haze, they stumbled upon a dilapidated barn, its doors ajar, offering temporary sanctuary. Their trembling hands fumbled to lock the entrance, desperation fueling their rapid movements. Inside, shadows danced on the walls as the farmer circled, his laughter bouncing off the dilapidated beams. In this desperate refuge, the couple clung to each other, trembling with fear and grappling with their dwindling hope. The air became stagnant and heavy, as if the darkness itself had taken corporeal form. Whispers of fate flickered around them, the sinister presence emanating from the very walls. And then, silence fell like a shroud. The sound of footsteps ceased, giving way to a spine-tingling stillness. Holding their breath, they exchanged a wary glance, questioning whether the nightmare had come to an end. But as they ventured out of their sanctuary, they were met with a sight that would haunt their nightmares forever. An empty barn devoid of the deranged man, days turned into weeks and weeks into years, yet the memory of that harrowing night refused to fade. The farm, still standing in silent desolation, served as a chilling reminder of the malevolent force that lurked within. Never again would they venture into the unknown without caution, for their encounter with the deranged man with the chainsaw had forever etched fear into.
The scorching Nevada desert sun beat down upon Brad as he pedaled his mountain bike across the rugged terrain. Sweat dripped from his forehead as he relished the thrill of the open desert trails. Unbeknownst to him, a malevolent presence watched his every move, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Lost in the adrenaline rush, Brad ventured deeper into the desolate wilderness, the landscape unfolding before him in a vast expanse of beauty and danger. Unbeknownst to him, he had entered the territory of a dark, supernatural force, an ancient legend whispered among the native people Skinwalker. As he negotiated a treacherous path lined with towering mesas and twisted Joshua trees, a sense of unease settled upon Brad, his instincts warning him of imminent danger. Strange whispers echoed in the wind, barely audible but haunting nonetheless. Unfamiliar animal calls pierced the silence, making him question his newfound adventure. Suddenly, a flash of movement caught Brad's attention. He glimpsed a shadowy figure darting between the rocks, a shape-shifting presence from lore he thought to be mere myth. Panic knotted his stomach, but it was too late. The Skinwalker had locked its sights on him. The creature, once a human and now cursed with dark powers, emerged from the shadows. Its body contorted in impossible ways, with twisted limbs and eyes that shone with a predatory glint. A miasma of ancient evil surrounded it as its inhuman voice drifted on the hot desert breeze. Fear clutched Brad's heart as he tried to outpace the creature, but the Skinwalker possessed an unearthly swiftness that defied his own speed. With each passing moment, the gap between them closed, and Brad's racing heartbeat told him this was a race he could not afford to lose. As he forged ahead, adrenaline flooding his veins, Brad chanced to look over his shoulder. His breath caught in his throat as he saw the Skinwalker closing in, its elongated arms reaching out with a sinister desire. Panic overcame him, his muscles burning as he pushed himself to the limits of his physicality. Trying to break free from the entity's relentless pursuit, Brad darted off the main trail into the labyrinthine network of sandy washes. He hoped the winding paths would shake off his pursuer, but the malevolent being weaved through the maze effortlessly, a predator tracking its vulnerable prey. In a final act of desperation, Brad sought refuge in an ancient cave, veins of red rock running through its walls. He stumbled inside, gasping for breath, the shadows now his only companions. The Skinwalker circled the cave's entrance, its eerie howls reverberating through the hollow space. Inside the cave, Brad's mind raced to find a way to break free from the grip of this cursed creature. Recalling urban legends of ancient rituals, he fumbled in his backpack, finding an offering, a talisman he had once scoffed at. He clutched it tightly, whispering a plea for salvation against the encroaching malevolence. The air thickened as the talisman's power activated, a surge of ancient energy permeating the cave. Brad curled against the cave wall, eyes darting between the flickering shadows and the entrance where the Skinwalker prowled. A guttural, unearthly scream reverberated through the cave, a cry of pain as the talisman's magic repelled the creature's unholy presence. The Skinwalker retreated, the maddening whispers subsiding, but the curse lingered in the shadows of the desert's ancient stories. Bruised and shaken, Brad emerged cautiously from the cave, his eyes scanning the barren landscape for any trace of the malevolent entity. Exhausted, he mounted his bike, wary of the lingering power that might still haunt his every move. As he pedaled back towards civilization, Brad knew he would forever be changed by his encounter with the Skinwalker. The desert was no longer a vast playground, but a place where unseen terrors hid within the shifting sands. The Skinwalker's curse would be forever etched in his soul.
The silence of the night was shattered by the creaking front door as it swung open. Clara and Henry, an elderly couple, cautiously stepped into the abandoned house that had stood untouched for decades. Their eyes glistened with a mix of fear and excitement as they walked into the darkness. They had always been fascinated by the supernatural, spending countless hours studying ancient texts and researching forbidden rituals. But this was different. This was their most daring expedition yet. They had stumbled upon a long-forgotten incantation, whispered to summon demons and unlock otherworldly powers. Clara, her silver hair cascading down her shoulders, clutched Henry's wrinkled hand with a mix of trepidation and determination. The couple trudged through a cobweb-covered hallway, their trembling footsteps echoing against the decaying walls. Dusty portraits stared down at them, their gazes painting the dim atmosphere with an eerie aura. In the study, adorned with faded books and crumbling manuscripts, Clara and Henry gathered their tools. A weathered pentagram etched onto the dusty wooden floor, ancient candles, and a cracked black mirror. In hushed tones, they chanted the forbidden words that danced on their tongues like fire. As the last syllable rolled from their lips, the room grew deathly still. Frosty breaths hovered in the air, engulfing the couple as the atmosphere thickened with an unsettling energy. Clara's eyes widened in fear as spectral mists began to materialize before them, taking shape and transforming into grotesque figures lurking in the shadows. The air filled with a cacophony of scratching sounds, as if an unseen force was clawing its way towards the couple. Suddenly, the mirrors lining the study walls began to crack, reflecting the grotesque images of the demons surrounding them. Clara and Henry exchanged worried glances, their earlier excitement overshadowed by impending dread. With each moment, the manifestations grew stronger. Demonic whispers, a haunting symphony of demonic laughter and agonized screams, swirled around them. The wailing souls of tormented spirits resonated through the halls, mingling with the howls of creatures from the darkest depths. As the couple stumbled back, their trembling hands inadvertently bumped into a long-forgotten lever concealed behind an old bookcase. The room shook violently, and the house seemed to groan in pain as if awakening from a deep slumber. The once abandoned house came alive. Doors slammed open and shut, wind whistled through unseen cracks, and the very foundation quivered beneath its weight. Pervasive darkness engulfed every corner, hiding the malevolent entities now unleashed within its walls. Clara and Henry, now trapped in their own nightmare, ran through labyrinthine halls, the relentless pursuit of the demons echoing behind them. They discovered secret rooms filled with cursed artifacts, walls adorned with grotesque paintings of unspeakable horrors. Each door they opened revealed ghastly visions, until they were left with no choice but to confront the evil they had summoned. They found themselves in the attic, the air heavy with the stench of decay. Shadows twisted and danced, contorted into sinister forms. Clara clutched a rosary, praying for salvation, while Henry held a fading torch in an attempt to pierce the consuming darkness. The demons encircled them, their malicious gazes penetrating their souls. Chills ran down the couple's spines as the figures took corporeal form, claws dripping with malice, eyes burning with otherworldly fire, and jagged fangs ready to tear into their flesh. Just as all hope seemed lost, a burst of light illuminated the room. Clara and Henry had inadvertently found and activated a protective amulet, once lost, amidst the chaos. The demons shrieked in agony, recoiling from the radiant force that now shielded the couple. With an indignant growl, the demons gradually retreated, slipping back into the depths from whence they came. The ancient house sighed, returning to its silent state once again, as Clara and Henry, battered and breathless, emerged from the horrors they had summoned. The experience forever marked them, a haunting reminder of their audacity. They had summoned forces they couldn't control, and in their desperate quest for the supernatural, they found themselves caught in the jaws of their darkest fears. The couple vowed never to tamper with the forbidden again, for the demons now knew of an elderly couple in an abandoned house, and they would always be lurking in the shadows, waiting for another chance to reclaim their territory.
Hello, horror family. Thank you for making it to the end. Hope you enjoyed that. Check out part 2 of my Binge series right there on the left. Part 3 will be up in the next couple days. Stay scary, stay gory, stay malevolent. But above all, please stay safe, and as always, we will see you on the dark side.